My next guest is Dr. Robb Kelly. Dr. Robb is always paying off students' lunch debt and is the founder of the Robb Kelly Foundation, where no child is left behind in the middle of their parents' and caretakers' addiction and trauma. Dr. Robb has an amazing story of how he successfully overcame addiction and helps others reach their potential. He works with patients to improve optimal performance by using neuroscience coaching evidence-based approaches. Dr. Robb provides mentorship and guidance to aspiring entrepreneurs. He invests and encourages others to invest in startup ventures. He devotes countless hours sharing his expertise through conferences and workshops, utilizing others who've always also overcome challenges associated with lifestyle changes, habit formation, childhood traumas, startup obstacles, etc. He has created educational programs on business fundamentals and fosters a culture of innovation and responsible risk-taking. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Robb.
Thank you, David. Great to be here. Hey, guys. This is going to be a good one, I think, because David's amazing.
Well, thank you so much. We'll start off with the question I ask everyone. Tell me about a time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Back in England, in case you think I'm from East Texas, guys, originally born in England. I've been here for 20 years in Texas. Homeless, not sure what age, around 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that. Lost everything, including my two little girls, ages 1 and 3. Sleeping in bush shelters under trees. Died twice on the streets in Manchester. And they brought me back to life, the medics, and I hated those guys for that many years. That was my trenches. And I always say, I had a spiritual awakening, which I did not believe in, nor did I believe in God. But it got me off the streets, and I swore to myself that if I ever get off the streets, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to research the brain and the mind and find out exactly what's going on there, because there's not a lot of research around there pertaining to recovery. There's lots pertaining to illness, because the medical fraternity like keeping you sick. And secondly, I need to keep my feet in the trenches. I have a lifestyle today that's amazing. I see things. I work with movie stars. I see things I shouldn't see as a kid from the projects. But yeah, that's my trenches days.
All wrapped up in a nutshell.
Yes.
Well, I did want to mention that you have a double PhD. So one, what is each PhD in, and how did you manage to do 2 PhDs? And when did these different fields of study occur?
So my college, my first PhD was psychology. I was intrigued with the brain and the patterns and stuff like that. My second PhD, even though it sounds glamorous, was in behavioral science.
Okay.
Because we use a lot of behavioral science today. And that was on an online course. So when someone double PhD, you go, oh my God, he must be smart. It was an online course, I'm not as smart as I used to be back in the day. So yeah, that's why psychology, bits and bobs of psychology we use today, but we believe that normal psychology cannot help the people we work with. It's all about neuroscience and behavioral science. So that's why I went back to get educated on behavioral science. And my guy at the university, nice guy, sent me to the zoo for a year. So I was actually at the zoo, down the zoo for a year, and watching the primates and the behavior and stuff like that. And so over 90% of communication is nonverbal. I was intrigued with what I found. So they're my 2 PhDs.
Do they come quickly in subsequent order?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my early days, I was drunk half the time. Just in case you don't know, guys, and used to be a chronic alcoholic, and I like drugs too. So the losing of everything was down to alcohol. So there was a lot of people paid off. I scraped through just about. So looking back, then I'm glad I did. I'm glad I took the education, but it doesn't really bode well for what we do today. Would you believe? Most of I say I went to Harvard for 14 months, and they go, what? They go, yeah, my homelessness was like a Harvard education. The stuff I learned on the streets, the people I met, the behavior around it, the psychology behind homelessness is unbelievable. So I look at them days as education as well.
So what got you started working with addiction and trauma?
Well, when I first got off the streets, I was very angry at doctors because they kept telling me, and still do, a battle by addiction. Um, we're not, just to let you know, guys. Um, I couldn't understand why I couldn't stop drinking and other people could. Like my brother, my sister, everyone I knew could just stop. Or my sister used to say, I think I've had enough now. It's like, what? I couldn't have
Hmm.
enough. So I delved into what was known or little known back in the day about the brain. It was hardwired and stuff like this. And I don't know why to this day I didn't believe that. I knew that everything else as a kid. I was a musician. I was on stage at the age of 9 years old in my musical family, so like auntie and uncle. Uh, so everything I did was pretty cool, apart from alcohol. So that's how I got into it. And I came up with a program that people were healing from. Uh, we spent probably 1.5, $1.6 million over the last 20 years studying, researching, trial, testing everything that I'm
Hmm.
going to say today on here, almost to the obsessive, aggressive pursuit of what's really going on. And what we found was crazy. And that's how we have a 98% success rate with around 11,000 patients right now with 5 offices around the world.
Hmm. Hmm. So you have two books that you've authored. The first one is Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. You also have a new book coming out about neuroscience and behavior. So definitely the first book talks a lot about just the experience that children in their homes experience and maybe how that leads to them drinking as teenagers and adults.
Yeah, it's kind of my life story, you know. It's
Hmm.
sad, it's funny, it's stuff like that. It's called Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. It was the last thing my daughter said to me when the authorities took them off me, ages 1 and 3. Um, so I wrote the book over several years. And
Hmm.
when it was complete, we didn't have a title. Then after 30 years, my daughter texts me on Messenger and says, hey, you know, I've had enough. I can't, we need to meet or something like that.
Hmm.
So that's where the title come from there. The second's no title yet, but it's all about neuroscience and how we can achieve anything we want to in the world. But people don't believe you, or again, or trapped in childhood trauma or fear. And very little people get to be themselves, their identity, their niche in life. Everyone's got something that they do well in life, but they don't approach it because we're scared of change. So we'd rather stay in a dead end job with a horrible marriage for 20 years than take a chance of moving forward. One of my sayings is if you're going to work and your boss is always shouting at you, get another job. If you're going home every night, guys, to a partner that you're walking around on eggshells, get a new partner. And people say, well, it's not that easy. My answer is, it really is that easy. See, you have very little time. You don't know how time fast goes. You know, look at models. They always say, 1 minute I'm waving them off to kindergarten, the next minute I'm waving them off to college. There's
Hmm.
huge truth in that. Stop living in past and fear. Stop thinking about the future as
Hmm.
anxiety. Start living in the day and realizing who you are and what you're capable of doing. Because the answer is anything that you want to do. Because
Hmm.
I would hate anybody listening to this program right now to get to the age of 80 or 90, look back in their lives to 2030s and realize there was nobody watching you and you really could have done anything you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your foundation, do you work with people of all ages then?
Yeah, probably from about 12 up. Most
Okay.
cases it's been 12. Yeah, but any age, we deal with anything like I say, depression, anxiety, addiction, alcoholism, which is different from drug addiction. So yeah, and we have lots of tools that we created or were known for. So I have one of those jobs, Dana, that I do what I love because I love what I do. So
Hmm.
I'm never at work. I mean, I'm probably at the office 8 hours a day, but
Hmm.
it's not work. I mean, I get to heal people. I get to see people, you know, get their lives back. I get to work with suicidal people who are now married with children and jobs and cars and mortgages and stuff like that. It's amazing.
So in your foundation, how did you get started in the foundation and how long has it existed?
So I own four companies and one
Okay.
non-profit. So our non-profit used to be the foundation. We started that a couple of years ago, but never really pushed it. Um, and then we kind of started it about 3 months ago. So the
Okay.
Robb Kelly non-profit is the foundation. And then I have a restaurant, I have Robb Kelly Group, and then I have the Breathbox Studio, which
Okay.
is a software that changes patterns in brains. So, and that was done about 6 months ago. I started that. And 2 years ago, I started the British restaurant here in San
Okay.
Antonio, the old English tea shop. So it's all British
hmm
stuff, fish and chips, pies, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I keep myself busy. I'm 65 this year. And
hmm
I refuse to be 65. I definitely don't look 65.
hmm
And I think age is a number. And my dad always told me, right or wrong, he said to me, the day you retire is the day you die. And I truly believe that.
hmm Yeah, so you've done a lot just in the past year. So you talked a little bit about one of the foundations is helping hungry people in your area. So is that like a food bank? What does that consist of?
So there's a couple of things we do. We get together. So I have a restaurant. So all the food left over restaurant on a Sunday afternoon, we close at 3, gets loaded into my car and we take it down to the homes.
hmm
And it's crazy because I have this, it's a business thing, a crazy expensive car. And
hmm
I stop in the middle of the homeless van. I was handing this stuff out. It's
hmm
amazing, absolutely amazing. Which again I have to do. We'll call schools up, especially children around 8 to 12, 6 to 12, and we'll pay their lunch debt off.
hmm
So we started this about 3 years ago, and it was so hard to pay lunch debt because nobody took us serious. It's like, you want to come in and what? Because I was horrified one day when I was speaking to somebody, and he said, "Oh, my friend's kid got sent home from school because he couldn't afford his lunch." Da, 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 da. And I said, "What do you mean he couldn't afford his lunch?" "Oh, if you can't afford to pay lunches, there comes a lunch debt, and then they cut you off." And I'm like, "What? How, what year is it? Are we in America?" So we pick about 10 schools every year, and we call them up and say, "Hey, how much is your lunch debt?" Um, and they say X amount of dollars, and we go down there, write a check very quietly, no media or nothing. And then we give $150,000, me and my wife, out of our own bank accounts back in the community, to help people get a second chance, just like I got a second chance. Um, Very rarely turn people down. So that's why the non-profit was kind of made. Is there's so many people that need help, and we've only got so
hmm
much money, and if we start this non-profit, then people can help us on the journey. So it's looking pretty good right now, but we always need donations.
So you've worked also with truancy, maybe with children who are secondary school level. So when you studied your PhD, you talked about some of those negative behavior patterns. Talk to me a little bit about how students need to get evaluated, one for neurodiversity, but also how that affects truancy.
Well, what we found in our studies is, well, we found nobody really tests for that. Nobody really, you go to school, you try and get educated to the best of your ability, and you leave. Nobody was micromanaging the behavioral and the behavioral science behind these children. So we did lots of tests around that. Truancy, obviously, people don't want to go to school, so they don't go. So they get lost in the system, and maybe a truant officer will show up at your door, and maybe. But our question was, why are they missing from school? What's
Mhm.
not at school, or what's deficient at school that they need to get? And it was just amazing that we found out that a lot of schools are kind of dumbed down our education these days. So we looked at what was seeking, uh, and a lot of it was behavioral. Uh, so behavioral starts at home. As we're toddlers, mom says to interns, "Don't put your hand in the fire." We put our hand in the fire, it burns us. So what we learn from that is whatever mom says is true, but the behavior from parents, the enmeshment from parents, passing down the depression, the behavior, the laziness, whatever it is, PTSD, anything crazy like that affects the child in so many ways. We came up with this saying that people don't like, but it's the truth. And we have thousands and thousands of research papers on it. And that is anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. So if you're letting your kid come home and run rampant, go upstairs and play a game for 6 or 7 hours and go straight to bed, and first of all, I'll show you a future addict, drug addict, first of all. And secondly, there's no responsibility, there's no nurturing. Now, we're bad enough with the phones and the tablets and stuff because people can't communicate, can't socialize anymore. I mean, I've seen, maybe I've done it maybe, but sending text across the dinner table. I mean, they don't live in a real world right now. And of course, that adds to the situation. But monkey see, monkey do as we grow up and find that we are the people around us. So if you grow up in a nice household and you mix with the wrong people at school, you'll continue mixing with the wrong people if someone doesn't pull you out, and that'll become the norm. So behavioral, even today, can be made normal. And you think there's nothing wrong with it, but you go down a way in life, go down the rabbit hole and behavior, alcohol, death, suicide. But at child, it can be changed. At early childhood, it can be changed. But there's a lot of parents out there. Now, there's no manual with parents, or even when we get people with chronic childhood trauma, it's nobody's fault. I don't think anybody, or maybe a few, not that I know, parents have ever grown up, okay, let's mess our kids up and let's punish them and beat them. I don't think anybody just gets up and does that. I think, again, that's behavioral psychiatric, what happens there, because that's just pure evil. So by studying that behavior, we can educate people at an early level, educate parents. Everything's in patterns. Everything is in patterns, and people don't realize this. You ever been out on a school trip, or a boys' day out, like 20 guys get on the bus and they go down to the seaside, drink a load of beer, act a fool, get back on the bus again. When you get back on the bus, which seat you're sitting, it's usually the one you travel there with. That's a pattern we don't really realize. Well, we're made up of trillions of patterns. So 300 neural pathways, which are thought patterns in the brain, die every day. What are you replacing them with? If we're replacing them with past behavior and past cycles and patterns, then you're never going to grow and you repeat the trauma and the depression and the anxiety. So it's about inputting the 300 neural pathways every single day in changing the way you do things. And it does affect children and it does affect adults.
So it's really about parent education.
We think so. And again, no parents' fault, or caregivers, or teachers, but we can do better, and we should do better. But yeah, I mean, if you're told you're stupid at school, guess what? I'm going to believe you're stupid. Told you can't do anything by your parents, guess what? You won't be able to do anything. It's like when we were kids, we used to, back in England, kick a ball around, and over here, used to throw the ball. Jimmy, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a footballer. What about you, Billy? I want to be a lawyer. Brilliant. What happened to them dreams? They were kicked out of us by our family and friends. So it's a stupid, Robert, I got told. You can't go to college like your brother. You're too stupid. That ruined my life for a long time, even after college. As I got to college, and it was just, I felt like a fish out of water. I was the imposter syndrome all over. We still suffer a little bit from that today. But life is good. It's finding the key to good. Finding the key to growth. It's finding the key of loving people, being kind to people, doing stuff for people, complimenting people, helping them grow. And the ripple effect is phenomenal when we do stuff like this. And you'll never know how many people you affect. Never, ever know how many people you affect. But this is, I look at today's life, is I get up tomorrow just excited as I did 20 years ago when I came to America. I get up excited for me to see what the day's going to bring and to see if we can hear anybody. So let's take this podcast. We turn down 20 podcasts a month. But Courtney goes out and finds podcasters like you are changing the world. And then we come. So you'll never see me selling my services or, hey, buy this book. And no. The idea of me being on a podcast is can you and I save a life today? Can something we say stop that suicide, stop that behavior, stop that. Is what we say that important? Well, it is. It is. When you have knowledge of your arena, it needs to be shared, and platforms like this are perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for changing the world, first of all, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate that. I hope it just, it hits the right listeners, right? And those are usually educators that are working with people, you're working with parents and students and, trying to find solutions for them. Well, we've had a great conversation around your work, how you experienced addiction in your younger years and how you've been working, opening your foundations and getting started with working with those different individuals who have behavior, anxiety, depression, and PTSD, et cetera. Out of everything we've talked about today, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
Remember that nobody's watching and you can do what you want to do. It's very important to understand that sentence, because people say they do, but they don't. Nobody's watching me. Everyone thinks people are judging, watching me. I'm not going to try this in case I don't succeed. Who cares? I don't want to fail. Go speak to the Beatles, man. Go speak to the author, J.K. Rowling. Turned down so many times. And you can literally, the brain is wired and the mind is wired in a certain way that neuroplasticity can change the way you think. If you study the subconscious brain, you can change the way you act, think, walk, talk. And I beg everybody to go and do a little bit of research on who you can be and live your best life, man. Stop caring what people say about you, what think about you. It's none of your business. The best day of my life was around 5 or 6 years ago. When I go, now I'm in the news, I'm on TV, I've got millions and millions and millions of viewers and followers on TV. And I got up one morning and I said, you know something, I don't care anymore. I don't care what people think about me. And it was like a big weight coming off my shoulders. So I beg of you guys to go research and go try and see if you can live your best life.
Yeah, no, that's really important to remember. Where can people connect with you and find you online?
So if you're listening, not watching, I spell my name with two B's, ROBBKELLY.com. Great website. Put Dr. Robb Kelly in any search engine, up I'll come. And then just have fun, man. I mean, everything's on there. The Breathwork Studio is on there. The nonprofit is on there. If you can afford $1, brilliant, put it in. If you can't afford $1, send us an email. We might be able to send you one.
Well, I'll make sure I include those links in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for your time and really talking about your experience helps a lot and how you work with individuals today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.